speaking with Oleksi Arestovytsh, who is advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelenskyi. He is also a popular blogger with over 2 million followers. He is a military person. He is the lieutenant colonel in the armed forces of Ukraine. He is also involved in intelligence. So he has a deep knowledge of what is going on during this war. Oleksi, my first question to you is that winter has come to Ukraine. Your president has said that this will be the most difficult winter for Ukraine in modern history. Russia is weaponizing winter, and I quote some of the news sources. Because Russian missile strikes, because of them, millions are already without gas, without electricity, without a power grid, obviously, and fresh water in the Ukraine. And especially along the front lines, living under humane conditions, tens of thousands of Ukrainians could die. Is there a sense of panic in the Ukrainian government?
It is a strategy. They try to force our government for negotiations using this massive suffering of the civil society, of the civilian people, and they just directly speaking about this on their propagandist says directly, openly. We have to force Ukrainian government for negotiations with us and to take our conditions for these negotiations because of massive suffering of the civilian people. It's mean terrorism for us, because terrorists using suffering of the civilian people for force government. It's just completely terrorist states. That's why Parliament Assembly of the NATO and the European Parliament proclaimed Russia like a government or like a state who using the terrorist methods and using the sponsor of the terrorism. It's completely directly lying from one to another point.
Okay. So the government is really prepared for a scenario where thousands of people, tens of thousands may die because of winter weather?
I was a young person, and I remember when I'm in my military school, I just sitting with the clouds of the cold air.
Vapor,
yeah, in my building when I live, this temperature in the winter was 4 degrees plus, 4-6, and I spent 2 years like this because no heating, no electricity.
No буржуйка.
No буржуйка. When it was a collapse of economy in the 19th. So all our people who more than 14 has a great experience for this. It's one reason. Another reason it could be one of the warmest winter from the 5 last year, like meteorologist says. It's thanks God. It's a great pleasure for us. Another one. Our government and our people themselves are doing a lot for preparing for this winter, because emergency and scenario we understand just in the summertime. For last polls, about more than 60% of our people getting preparing from scenario, just family, just themselves, and 35% says we preparing partially and want to prepare it more, used to a possibility to use. Because of the supply of the European countries, the United States and other countries, we get a lot of generators for hospitals. For emergency needs, hospitals, food factories, and something like this. So I think we ready for this scenario, but it's not denied the Russian intention about this, and it's not denied it could be most difficult winter because despite any preparing, when you 5 days have no water, electricity and heating, it's getting a little bit difficult, especially for elder people, for children and something like this.
The energy grid was developed together with your colleagues in Russia in the past. Yes. In other words, they have, and now they are your enemies, they have all the information how your whole power system, electricity system was built.
Yes, this system was created, it was designed in the 70s. And it was just in the design prepared for total nuclear war with data. So it's a lot of time multiplied and for any emergencies. So, for my opinion, Russians could get in a lot of problem for us and they managed to do it, but total blackout, it's not real scenario, I think.
Because as soon as you repair your power system, your grid, you have new rocket attacks, new missile attacks, and it seems to be like an unending cycle.
Yes, it's a just cycle, and they get into strike, we get into repair, they get into strike. It is just like a wheel, you know. Keeps going on. And they has missiles probably right now, if even not count probably Iranian missiles, which could come. They has for 10, 12 great massive attack. It's mean we have to repair 12 or 10 times more, and that's why we need a whole complex of repairing pockets for this, and that's why yesterday European Union and the United States getting and Germany spent some money, half 50 billions for this repairing complex pockets.
Yeah, and of course humanitarian missions also are bringing in generators, and we are doing the same also from Finland.
Because it's elder people, the adult people could stay in the flat or the apartment, even at the minus 5 degrees. But hospitals, food factories, something like this, the houses of the adult people. I know a lot of children, kindergarten schools. They can't do this. We need a lot of repair.
Yeah, we were in Novosyolovkia,
Zaporizhia district.
Yeah, in that area, and we saw how they had one generator for one basement, and in the basement they had 50 people. Yeah. One generator. So, yeah.
That's why the president proclaimed this as a point of our strongness, which is have to be designed and already designed mostly in all of our settlements and towns and cities. When the person or people could go it to recharge this sort of things, to get warm, to take water, some medicine, something like this, because all person could understand if it would be getting worse and worse in my apartment, I have ability to get to this point and take some assistance.
Yeah. In this context, CNN visited Avdiivka, and the local authorities there were saying that they would not be able to provide food to the city because of a snowed in, because of the snow. In other words, there are no snow plows in Avdiivka. Lots of snow, they can't access the city with food shipments. And they also told the people to evacuate. And they said, do you understand that if you don't starve to death, then you may simply freeze to death? And again, I say, is there a sense of hopelessness maybe for some villages or towns or cities?
It's a great problem because the internal front line for us is 300 kilometers. And if in Kiev we could manage something with this problem, just in the front line, there's a great problem, like in Avdiivka, because Russian shells just not on cruise missiles, they shells energy and heating system by the field artillery. And it's no way to manage this. Our air defense system could go down the missiles, but no way for managed field assistance. That's why the people who is on the front line, I think it's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, they will face this winter with more worse conditions. It's a really great problem. And we have to do something as the best way. It's just to take enough weapon for beating Russia and get him out from our territory.
We were in Kherson 2 days after the liberation, and we were not supposed to be there because of our escorts. We had military chaplains who had access, so I was able to travel with them. But the people in the city were saying, yes, we have no light, we have no water, but we have our freedom. But then Minister Irina Vereshchuk said that the regional authorities will not be able to repair the damaged infrastructure before the winter. And like tens of thousands of people still live in Kherson.
Right now in Kherson we have electricity. It's half of the Kherson. It's under the cover of the electricity, heating or something like this. And we will manage tomorrow. But problem with the Kherson, it's a pre-front line city, and Russians start to shell immediately after we liberate Kherson. And so after 2 days, now we have 20 people killed in Kherson by Russian shelling, and they try to hit. Absolutely same way. They try to hit by field artillery, not only civilian buildings, just for electricity systems, for I don't know, for providing cell phone connection or something like this. Just as they doing like terrorists to terrorize civil society.
We were in the SBU headquarters inside the yard, and I counted 30 explosions in 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
When we were there, so it's like
they hitting just the multi-flat buildings that are killing for 1 day for 2 days 20 people.
So it looks like the rockets cannot be stopped by air defense systems alone. And obviously because they are still coming through and they are still hitting, critical, infrastructure.
Usually our air defense system hit down from 70 to 90% of the Russian rockets. But if they throw 100 and we hit down 80 to 20, still hit our system, it's a problem. And it's a problem deciding for more air defense systems, which is getting from the west to Ukraine.
Because it's almost impossible to hit all the rockets coming in. The solution would seem to be to hit the launch sites, or the launch pads, the platforms, before they before they launch them.
We have a great problem with this, because our mostly long-range weapon is just 100 kilometers. Russians most ranges is 2,000 kilometers. It's not comparing. That's difficult. Why? If Russians knows for all the strikes, we just face our strikes backs, it will be another situation, because they thought times before hitting. They know we could use our weapon on the Russians' airfields, military airfields probably, or military base for this, or about the ports of this missile, which is the depots of the ammunition for this. It will be a comparison situation. Now it's not asymmetric for us. It's a very big problem. That's why we're asking West about this type of weapon, because it's very difficult to win this war. We win this war, of course, but the price will be great, and it's a price for civilians mostly, because they don't hit a military object by the cruise missiles. It's hitting just civilian structure, and we have to be symmetric with them. It's one of the most reason for stop the strikes or make them less effectively.
You are asking for Patriot missiles, but the maximum range of a Patriot missile is 160 kilometers. So
it's another way. It's a way of defense. We just have right now the way of defense, when we have to need a way for counterattack. And we have to ask it for, I don't know, drones or some long-range missiles for 800 kilometers. Because if we have this system, we could hit mostly Russian air base, which is using against Ukraine. Yes, against Ukraine, just in the deeps of Russia. It's accuracy missiles, very accuracy, and it just means we will hit only military objects, no civilians. But if it not, we have to make more effectively our air defense system. And Patriot is a very great system, because they have ability to hit not only planes, but a rocket itself, even a ballistic rocket, which is like Iskander or some like Kinjal.
So they're able to hit.
Able to hit them. Yes,
that's good.
And it's the main reason for them, because to hit a cruise missile is not so difficult, but hitting the ballistic missiles, it's very, very difficult.
You need Patriots for that.
Yes, a Patriot could do this. That's why, because we're not in defense right now against ballistic missiles.
Yeah. So I would.
And if Iranian rockets came here, missiles come here, it was mostly ballistic. All of them is ballistic. It means we absolutely undefended against
the Iranians.
So we want this Patriot for threat to face Iranian threat
before they start using.
Before they start using, because from this we know we have no any defense. It means they could break our heating system for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a catastrophe.
Catastrophe.
Yeah.
Yes. We could manage with the missile rockets, but with ballistic rockets it's very difficult.
Pray to God that you get your Patriot missiles before they start using them.
I don't know. I don't think so. Because NATO make decisions slowly than we really need.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
You also mentioned before the interview the problem of the interesting situation regarding the missile that landed in Poland. Can you please explain what was happening?
We know from our military intelligence sources by the radio recapturing when the 2 missiles come into Poland, it was absolutely panic in the Russian forces in Ukraine. We hear it by our radio system that they ready for withdrawal. And ready for withdrawal even from territory of Ukraine. It was absolutely panic. They were waiting for NATO strike and big NATO strike. If NATO proclaimed just full combat readiness, I think the Russian run for Vladivostok probably. They was not even afraid. They was in absolutely completely panic about the situation. It's very interesting point for people from the West who saying Russians do not be afraid NATO or Russian could threat NATO. It's not. That's a completely real fact about great panic from the one little incident. If Russia really face to fight with NATO, I think they will be make like this.
Destroyed.
Yes, absolutely.
Destroyed. Yeah. Just recently, I heard from military intelligence that Crimea could be deoccupied by the end of this year. Is that realistic?
End of this year? No, I don't think so. End of next year it could be. Yeah. Crimea is an interesting situation. We have a lot of experts say if Ukrainian force try to liberate Crimea, Russians will threat by nuclear weapon or even use nuclear weapon. I don't think really so, because United States, NATO, and mostly China and India were very strong decline against using nuclear. I don't think that Putin really ready for face China in this question. And if our force came to Crimea, the Crimea for defenders, it's a great catch. For Crimea is comfortable for offensive on the Crimea, but to defend Crimea is a great catch. If we cut the Crimean bridge, we could do it absolutely by our artillery. If we came near the Crimea, the Russians start to supply us by military ships. And we have a Harpoon missiles and Neptune missiles to close this ability for them. And it's mean Russian completely go into same situation on the right bank of the Dnieper and the Kherson district, which is, we know how it end for them. It will be absolutely symmetric situation, like for Kherson region and for Crimea region. From military point of view, to regain Crimea, to liberate Crimea, it's not a problem. And if we're ready for this, do we ready for this? Absolutely, because last polls says 91% of Ukrainians asking government, asking our president about liberate our territory by military way. Why? Because every day Russians staying here, it's mean new butchers. Russians kill our person. When we liberate Kherson, just in the building of the national police, which is completely in the center of the city, we find 93 persons who was tortured for death by Russians. We have a massive grave right now in one of the small villages in the Kherson district. And I know from the operative sources, from the security service sources, this is about four in the two new Buchas in Zaporizhzhia districts, and 2 in Kherson. It's not so massive, but it's still dozens of people which killing by Russian. Every day Russians staying in our terrain, it's mean they killing people, they torture people, rape women, rape little girls, I don't know. Animals. It's a problem. If we have a war with European nation, it could be negotiations, because the civilized people, civilized armies, they could be staying without tortures and suffering of civil society. With Russian, it's completely not possible. Second reason, Russian collect all the resources and people, they mobilized our people and force Ukrainians to kill Ukrainians, like in the Lugansk and Donetsk district. And another reason, Russia need to pause to prepare a next wave of offensive. We completely understand what they do. Well, still the time President Zelensky getting in power on his duty, it's 88 meeting with Russia on the highest diplomatic level. And we have a great European war. Again, negotiations do not work with Russians. Russians understand only force.
I think Finland feels the same way. Our experience with Russia is you cannot talk without force.
And all the neighbors of Russia completely understand what it means, the negotiations with Russians. And all Europe and far nations do not understand completely what it means. We understand.
Joseph Borrell is the High Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security for the Policy Center at the EU Diplomatic Academy. I quote him, "There is the nuclear threat, and Putin is saying that he is not bluffing when he says nuclear." And then Mr. Borrell goes on to say, "Any nuclear attack against Ukraine will create a response, not a nuclear response, but such a powerful response from the military side that the Russian army will be annihilated, totally destroyed. And Putin should not be bluffing." Yeah, those are powerful words.
He says more, no, not he, just to European and NATO officials and former officials, like General Ben Hodges, they say more interesting things. They say if Russians use nuclear weapon against NATO countries, it will be directly killing by just on the Mr. Putin. And it's new world and a new method in the international politics, because it's the first time in my remembering when the West, collective West or NATO, use open scenario words. They say, if you do this, we're doing that. If you do this, you're doing this. It's a great problem for Russians, because they, when they use hybrid war against NATO, they use to growing up the level of emergency, and to force Western media, Western people and Western government to make a step back, to speak in some peace words. And after that, Russia immediately make a step forward. This war started because we gave a lot of possibility for Russians to negotiate with us, to make a peace agreement. But they will not. They just try to get more and more steps. And when we say not, it's a red line. We never get this, they start the war. With NATO, it's not working, because NATO have a great military ability, a great economy ability to kill Russian army, to defeat Russian army for 3 days, just on the routes.
30 days, you said?
3 days. 3 days. Yeah. And the one, just six fleet in the Mediterranean, in one launches could launch 11,000 Tomahawk missiles.
Yeah, Tomahawk
cruise missiles. It's been finished of the Russian army at all. And Russians completely understand this. They completely understand if they were defeated by Ukrainian army, NATO armies, just kill them for 3 days. And it's work. I was my big pleasure, I heard this words from European authorities when they say, if you do this, we do this. This is immediately stop any Russian speaking about using nuclear power, about try to terrorize West, try to terrorize Ukraine of the threat of the nuclear weapon. immediately stopped. And after this, China and Indian positions, it's the same, getting more for this.
We also hear that the Russians have built up their forces in the Belarus area, and they would probably want to try to take Kiev for a second time.
They now use in Belarusian territory like a great military training center, because in Belarus is a great structure from the Soviet Union times still. Belarus army is not ready for offensive. They first in the moral, they don't take any part in this war. Russian forces and mobilized personnel who trained in Belarus get in just in the Donbass. They have 11,000 people of them. It's completely not enough for any offensive. And for try to threat Kiev again, they need probably about 40,000 people, which is difficult to collect because they insufficient personnel from this big front line of the 1,300 kilometers. So I think they will be threatened. A lot of information about the threat from from the Belarusian territory force us to take a lot of forces here and do not use it in Donbass or in the source. Just threaten and force us to take a lot of forces here. But it's the misadvantages of all our geographic situation. Ukraine is surrounded by Russian forces from 5 part of 6 is just from the corner of Poland, Belarus and Ukrainian borders to Transnistria. And it's difficult. We have to be strong from any direction. It's most ineffectively way of the defense, but geography still dictate now this sort of things for us. This reason. So we have to be strong on the Belarusian borders and can't use these forces to liberate our territory from the south and the west. And they try to threat.
Yeah. The winter time will be a good time if they wanted to attack from Belarus, because the ground will be frozen.
It could be, but they can't. Now they have no any material ability for do this. If they immediately start to preparing, it will take 2 or 3 months for this. The winter will be end for the.
Yeah, that was part of the information that we received, that they would actually vacate the areas where they are now fighting. And they would bring all their troops as much as they can into Belarus and then come down.
No. They do not move troops right now to Belarus. They collect all the free forces for Donbass direction. They try to take a margin of the threat of the Belarus and take a little forces to threat us. Yes, because we can't to give them ability to make a next butcher or second butcher again. And that's why we have to take a lot of forces on this. But I don't really believe from the threat from Belarusian territory. They could use missile rockets, a lot of Iskanders in Belarus. They could use aviation, like with Kinjal rockets from Belarusian territory. But I think not ground forces. It could be some provocation, a little gain in our territory and come back. In this type of their behavior, I could believe. In the massive offensive, I don't believe really. We didn't see any signs of this, of preparing of this.
Well, I certainly hope so. I want to ask you a personal question. What about your plans for the future? Maybe are you planning to be the next president of Ukraine?
Maybe. But now we have to collect all our attention for assist and support our president Zelenskyi, because he's a high military commander, and now we're in war. All my attention and all my people who hearing me, I always says, do not thinking about who will be next president. Just collect all our forces and all our support for President Zelenskyi, because it's military leader, and we have to right now we in the war. After that, we could speak of different scenario, but right now we just have to support president.